Hi, Miss Gray. Today I'll be analyzing Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood through the psychoanalytic lens, which focuses on how trauma and repression shape the way Grace sees herself and how others see her. Alias Grace tells the story of a young woman accused of murder, but it doesn't just question whether she's guilty or not. It looks into the workings of memory and how trauma can distort, bury, and sometimes destroy it. Grace's mind becomes a fight between societal expectations, fears, and parts of herself that she doesn't understand. Grace's sense of self becomes unreliable, shaped by the unconscious mind as she struggles to make sense of her traumatic past. Grace's psychological journey is a clear example of how, in a dark time, the eye begins to see. Theodore Recky. She's surrounded by emotional trauma, judgment, and broken memories. But through that darkness, pieces of the truth start to come out. Even when the truth isn't clear or complete, it's the struggle itself that Grace begins to uncover these hidden parts of herself. The more she's forced to confront what she's hidden, the more she starts to understand the impact of her past and how it's shaped her now. According to Freud's theory of repression, the mind pushes painful memories into the unconscious part to protect itself. But those memories don't stay buried forever. They resurface in weird and different ways, such as dreams and moments of emotional confusion. This happens throughout the novel. Grace doesn't remember everything that happened, but her unconscious keeps trying to break through. Her broken memory shows how trauma affects her identity and her perception of herself. This becomes really clear when Grace reflects on the ways that others have defined her. She says, I think of all the things that have been written about me, that I am an inhuman female demon, and that I am an innocent victim. And I wonder, how can I be all these different things at once? She's clearly struggling with the conflicting versions of herself that people have created for her. This ties into the psychoanalytical ideas of the persona and the shadow. The persona is the mask that we wear, the version of ourselves that we show to the world. The shadow holds all of the ideas that we hide or oppress, like fear or guilt. Grace is constantly shifting between these two roles, depending on who's looking at her, which leaves her unsure of who she really is. To some, she's a monster. To others, she's a victim. These opposing views make her question her own identity. She doesn't know who she really is anymore, because so much of her personality has been shaped by how others defined her, and by how her mind tries to protect her from her own past. Her desires are also really complicated. She never says exactly what she wants, but there are signs that she wants an understanding and control over her own story, and maybe even peace. At the same time, she's afraid. She's afraid of what might happen if she remembers everything. That fear keeps her stuck in a state where she can't fully remember everything but can't forget it. It's as if she's trapped in a battle of her own mind. She reflects, if we were all on trial for our thoughts, we would all be hanged. That reveals how dangerous her thoughts feel to her. Freud's idea of repression helps explain this. Grace's mind is trying to keep painful memories hidden, but they still come in, and they come in through ways that she can't control. Margaret Atwood also shows that Grace isn't the only one affected by the unconscious. Everyone is. For example, Dr. Simon Jordan, the doctor that is assigned to study her, goes through his own psychological breakdown. At first, he sees her as a mystery to solve, but the more involved he becomes, the more he starts to experience disturbing dreams and sometimes fantasies. His own mind becomes unstable, which shows that even someone who's really smart and would seem normal can't control the influence of the unconscious. Through his character, Margaret Atwood questions whether it's possible to remain completely objective when studying the mind. No one is completely rational. Everyone carries hidden fears and unresolved conflicts that shape their thoughts and actions. And that's where Rocky's words, "In a dark time the eye begins to see," really fits. Both Grace and Dr. Jordan are forced to confront their own darkness. Grace's trauma brings her closer to parts of her truth. And for Dr. Jordan, it forces him to confront his desires and his insecurities that he's trying to ignore. Neither of them find full clarity, but instead the novel suggests that the unconscious doesn't just give answers, it gives us insight into how complex and broken the human mind can be. What makes this novel even more powerful is that Alias Grace is based on a true historical case that took place in Kingston, the 1843 murder of Thomas Kinnear, in which Grace Marks was convicted, but the details were never fully clear. Margaret Atwood takes that uncertainty and uses it to explore how memory, trauma, and identity are all connected. The more Grace tries to understand her past, the more her identity breaks. The more us as readers understand that we might never know what really happened. So, in the end, Alias Grace's story is less about solving a mystery and more about understanding the mind. Grace isn't just someone who's accused of murder. She's a woman who's shaped by trauma and is forced to hide parts of herself. Margaret Atwood shows us how the unconscious works, how oppression can hide the truth, and how identity can become uncertain and sometimes broken. So, in conclusion, through the psychoanalytical lens, we see that Grace's story is not just about guilt or innocence. It's about the emotional and psychological toll of enduring trauma. As Rothke says, "In a dark time the eye begins to see." And in Grace's darkness, we begin to understand how trauma, memory, and repression shape who we are, even if that understanding only makes the mystery more confusing. Thanks for listening.